Welcome to Family Awareness Talk Show. From Beirut, from the heart of the city, we are back to you. We're going to talk about Beirut explosion. It's a very sad event in the history of Lebanon for all Lebanese around the world. In this episode, we're going to be talking with Caroline Kazanjian, social psychologist and psychotherapist at CPRM. Dr. Caroline,
Yes.
Please first tell us about what is CPRM?
CPRM, it's a center located in Beirut. We're a group of psychotherapists led by Dr. Makki. And basically, we raise awareness on all psychotherapy issues or psychological issues in Lebanon. And we take on cases. We have specialized therapists in child therapy and in adults and in couple and family therapy. And this is basically in a nutshell what we do. In a nutshell.
Yeah, guys usually receive people who are suffering from family problems, and like a person would come to you like her son is not studying or her daughter is not studying, and you follow up with people who are suffering from like financial issues, and they don't know how to manage their lives, and sometimes these issues would impact them, and would impact them even physically. So you might refer them to a psychiatrist. But what's happened with the Lebanese people? We were facing like Corona pandemic and this escalation and the pandemic restrictions, and then later
the
Beirut
tragic
blast,
event of Beirut blast,
which is like
yes.
Something a mind wouldn't interpret it
Mm-hmm.
for a regular person.
Exactly.
What happened with the Lebanese people, and then later we talk about specific people.
As you said, Dr. Michael, usually an individual, from the moment they are born, this is where the first 7 years of their lives, this is where they develop their identity, their character formation, and they go on with their lives, having some experiences. They go through tough times, they go through happy times. During tough times, this is when they feel that they need support, they need help. This is when we have awareness on psychotherapy and what it represents in terms of self-understanding and growth. We resort to psychotherapists to help us overcome this incidents or difficult times in life. Now, when we refer to what happened in Beirut explosion, this is purely a tragic, traumatic event. And what we need to understand is trauma in its definition. It's a word that summarizes the painful emotional response to an accident and tragic event that came all of a sudden into people's lives. Now, knowing this, we clearly need to, if you want visually to understand that there's a path, there's a journey in life happening, and something disrupted it at the core. Now, obviously, it goes without saying that children who are in the age of their character formation, the first 7 years, and identity formation, they are the most people who might be affected. The reason being is that when an identity is being formed, who we are as a person, as people, as adults, is basically the result of how we see ourselves with respect to the surroundings, with respect to our family, the relationships that we have formed, with respect to our school, our teachers, our friends, with respect to our home, which gives us the sense of security and safety. Now, when a traumatic event happens, and specifically what happened in Beirut, what we need to understand is that all of the foundation and the structure of our identity got destructed. So the first response of any person going through a traumatic event is that first they go into a shock feeling. They still don't understand what happened. And then they go into denying this feeling. Why? Because our psyche is formed of defense mechanisms that its only job is to protect us from feeling the pain. So denial is a very natural response to trauma. However, what we need to understand, specifically as parents, they need to understand that in order to heal from trauma, You have to go through the steps or stages of the trauma properly, which are the 7 stages of grief, because basically, or symbolically, if you want, the person, the child and the adult is actually grieving their identity, their self. Everything they know in their life is now different. All of a sudden, everyone woke up, their homes are gone, their family, the relationship, how their parents talk to them is now different. They are in panic mode themselves, and this is one of the most important parts that we noticed, that everyone was impacted equally. Of course, some people more severely. The closer they were to the explosion, the impact was higher. But usually when a trauma happens, let's say, to a child or to an adult, usually people surrounding this person, usually the family, close friends, they are able to support this person who went through the trauma. However, in the case of Beirut explosion, everyone was impacted equally. So,
Yes.
and this is why you could see the response of the community helping each other, because everyone wanted to just...
Yes, we've been all affected by it. You know, when people come to you, and you know, before we start the episode, you said that your house was affected. Actually, my house were affected by the blast. So it has affected all of us.
Yes.
And you know, regularly patients come to you, or people come to you to consult you when you're in a good mood or you are prepared to receive patients. But now you personally is affected. You are affected deep inside. So sometimes people who weren't affected by materialistic issues, but they are affected deep inside.
Yes, psychologically.
Psychologically, when a mom of a child comes to you and would say to you that my child is not sleeping well, they wake up at night. Like I've heard it from many people, that their children wake up at night, they're afraid. So what are the guidelines would you give such parents?
Yes. These symptoms of having panic attacks, flashbacks, nausea, and I don't know, any form of physical pain. It's quite normal, and as a first response to trauma. These are the immediate effects of having trauma, and then of course there are the long-term effects. So it's important to understand, as you said, these are all normal. When a parent comes to us with these issues about their children, we need to make them understand one thing, is that a child cannot express what they're feeling. So this is how they express it, and nightmares, and not in being agitated, and not being safe, and not feeling safe. So they might get aggressive with their siblings, not communicating properly. It's because they have these emotions that are held up inside, that they need, the parents have to find a way to help them release it. So the best thing would be is if, as we were discussing a while ago, that since parents as well are impacted, the best thing to do is to resort to help and psychotherapy in this case. So what the psychotherapist will try to do is same as what we do to adults, is just to help them express this pain that is not clear to them at that moment. Children usually express differently. It's very difficult for them to explain in words the actual feeling. They might express in drawing, they might express in dancing and music. So it's the therapist's job then and there to just at the first step, help them express, and then guide the parents to provide them back again the safety with restoring the relationship they have with their kids, because at that moment the child also is feeling that the parent is not doing well. The home is broken, or even if parts of it are broken, his home, his secure place as he knows it, is shattered. It's no longer the same. So they need to, we work on a 360 level to restore one variable at a time, if you want, so that the child feels comfortable again with himself and his surrounding.
Okay, now some of the mothers ask their children to draw on a paper, like, you know, children love to draw on papers and to color. So I read from some mothers that their children are drawing like destructed houses.
Yeah,
so
that's
normal. How can we interpret this? Actually,
if the child is actually drawing a destructed house, that's actually perfect, because he has gotten to the stage where He's
Amazing.
he's visualizing exactly what happened and what's bothering him into words. A more complex case would be that the child would be just scratching or just drawing different things that the therapist or the consultant would be able to interpret these symbols into other meanings. And the drawings would be the first step to just ask the child, what is it that you drew? What does this mean here? So as we said earlier, he's not able to just formulate a full sentence and explain to us the way I'm explaining now. So he might prefer to do it by drawing. So it would be a good thing as a next step to just ask him, what is it that you drew? Why did you put this here? And even sometimes the position of every element. In the case of trauma, post-traumatic case, we can see that the elements are different. For example, a child might draw the sun on the floor, or he might draw the house upside down, because literally this is how his inside is feeling. His whole world is reverted upside down.
Nothing to scare about.
No, it's absolutely normal.
That's really good. So going from kids who are over the age of 5 now for teenagers, there's something you can see it on news or on Facebook now. Many people can share it about a boy who was 15 years old, and he lost his life while he was sleeping in his bed near the seaport, in a peaceful place. Many people love to live there because it's like calm and quiet, although it's in the midst of the city, Beirut. So what breaks your heart that his friends, whose colleagues at schools, and they love to follow that person while he was going to rest in peace in his last place. So children who are 15 years old are really affected that they lost a Lebanese boy who's only 15 years old. How much has affected them, and what are the guidelines if they have lost hopes in the country? Would you give them in case they visited your clinic?
Teenagers is a different case altogether, because you're already dealing with the age group that is rebellious. They want to change the world. They don't like everything. They don't like how their parents think. They don't like their country. They want to drive change. So it's critical from a different point of view. They're slightly safer because at the age of 14 or 15, they are able to express. They're able to articulate in words that the fact that the 15-year-old boy died, how it made them feel, but not to the extent that the adults would do. So again, you're still talking, it's a critical phase because it's a transitional phase into adulthood. So anything that goes wrong in this phase, again, would impact them to the rest of their lives. So again, when a teenager would come to therapy, usually they'd be more than other age groups filled with rage, because already they're feeling of the dislike. So what happened with the Beirut explosion just erupted their emotions even faster. Yes, it's this age, specifically when the boy that was 15 years old died, it's sad because he represents youth, he represents the future, and this the symbol of his death impacted a lot of teenagers and adults themselves. So again, the best way to handle the emotions or the trauma is to let them express, let them understand what they're feeling. That's a very important part. Usually it's a misconception to say that people forget, or children forget, or teenagers, they have their lives in front of them, they will just forget. Yes, they can recover from trauma only if they follow the steps correctly. So to move into the steps again correctly, you have to be able to articulate and express what is the feeling, what is the exact emotion you got at that moment of the blast. How scared were you? Because if we keep emotions in the denial phase, we will get fixated at that stage, and we will hold those feelings throughout our lives. Regardless if we're 10 years old or 20 years old or 40 years old. It's the same impact across, but every age group again has different dynamics or different difficulties. So this is why we handle each age group with its unique techniques or expression methods.
Yeah, amazing. You know, let's get some mixing between the teenagers and the adults now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not political, but it's like it was obvious to the whole world that it's been like many years. The Lebanese have lived economic crisis.
Yes.
And then later, you know, you saw that people went into strikes and revolutions, and they wanted to stop working because they weren't getting enough money, and they felt they've been mistreated
Mm-hmm.
by their governments and or some political leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, the bank stole the money of the people,
Mm-hmm.
which has never happened in any country, that the bank would, you know, you
Mhm.
trust the bank, and
Mhm.
the bank,
Mm-hmm.
which was or which still has been till now controlled by the government, stole people's money.
Yeah.
So you were saying that teenagers have rage against the regime. They don't accept everything. They want everything perfect
Mm-hmm.
because they are the new generation.
Yes.
They want to change. Actually,
Yes.
they come this, and we have hopes in this new generation because they want to change what we have messed. If you and I have messed something, actually, what the government have messed.
Yeah.
So, you know, I told you I deal with people who wanted to do a certain exam for a certain embassy in order
To travel, to immigrate.
to work or
Mm.
study or to immigrate. So I don't want to tell you about what I hear from people. I want to hear from you how much people, Lebanese people in general, have hopes after the blast, because some people think that this was done on purpose, or this was done because of carelessness of the people who were in charge of the seaport.
Yeah. Now, I can give you my input while analyzing this psychologically, and the best way to simplify it is to if you want to use the metaphor of home, whereby the mother and father and the children exist under one roof. The father's role is to provide the protection and to give the care while protecting the actual home. And the mother's role would be is to give nutrition and love, to give love and care through giving the kids the nutrition they need and the emotional support, etc. So if we take this example and project it to the bigger home that we have, which is our country, the government plays the role of the mother and the father, which their role is to protect the children. So what we're feeling right now with everything that you explained is that we don't have the safety feeling inside our homes. So it's only natural for people to seek safety outside their home. But this creates a lot of triggers abandoned feelings, because for everyone this is our home. For everyone we're being taken away from, we're being put in front of the decision that we want to move away because we don't feel safe anymore. So this is, if you want, on a collective level what people are feeling, without tapping into the political issue, but psychologically this is what happens.
Yeah, some of the politicians went down there to comfort people.
Yeah.
Some of the Lebanese politicians went down there. So the Lebanese people didn't accept them after the blast.
Yeah.
They didn't want, they refused them before the blast, and after the blast, anyone who is related to any political party
Of course. Yeah.
is rejected by people.
Yeah.
But when some of the Western
Also,
leaders are coming, like for example Macron, when he came, President Macron came, when he came to Lebanon, people came to him and even he hugged them, while you know people are afraid of the pandemic, Corona.
Yeah.
So he didn't care, but he wanted to give love. How would you interpret this to the world?
Again, it's back to those people. Everyone living in Lebanon do not feel safe anymore. So anyone coming from outside, as sad as this is, for the Lebanese people, they would feel that they would be able to help them and understand them, because we no longer feel collectively that our leaders who we have trusted understand us, and we don't trust them. So knowing that trust is the foundation of all relationships, even the relationship that you have with parents or siblings or your spouse, not having the trust in people that are supposed to take care of your well-being, it's a major issue. So the things we saw with on the streets, where people welcoming people from Europe or whichever other country, the government, is only normal, because this is people's expression and people's way of saying, please help us. And we don't trust our leaders, but we trust you. And not to forget that what we know about the European countries or even the US, the civil laws there are quite respect their citizens in a way that give them the protection and safety needed for all the citizens, while just after the explosion and what happened, specifically that it's because of carelessness of our leaders, it was a major trigger for us to feel unsafe.
Okay, back to the people who have been affected by the blast, there was like a picture of a certain lady who lost her house. She is homeless now, and she will find someone who will help her. Actually, they are trying to help her, but she had built the house over the years. She raised her children, and her husband accompanied her all her life, and then she lost her house. Moving this lady to another house, how much she would be affected psychologically, and how can we treat such people who left? Because when you live in your house or you buy a car, you have some belongings to your car or to your house.
It's your life. Every corner of it represents a memory that is part of your life. Now, in post-traumatic, if you want treatment or immediate activation of the healing is to provide instant safety to this person that has lost his or her home. This is needed because you need to restore the immediate safety feeling for people. Now, on the long term, yes, of course, it's the impact, and specifically for someone who has lived in a house for so long, has so memories in the house, brought her children into life in this home and everything. So this trauma or these memories cannot be easily replaced. However, what we can do is, after giving the person the immediate safety, is to just help them express and grieve on what they lost, so that they can pass through the stages again in a safe way, in a healthy way, so they can reach at the end of the steps into the acceptance and living hope again in a new home, or feeling again that I will build again new memories or new life in this new safe haven that I've created.
Yeah, going back to those people who have been affected physically, I don't want to express how they've been affected physically because it hurts me so much. How do you think such people who lost an organ of their body would carry on in this life?
It's quite difficult thing to just reconstruct the purpose of their lives while looking at the scar every day. So simply put, we work with these people to just, again, after taking them into the steps, is how to change the memory of the scar, how to divert the memory of something painful into a new purpose, new hope, new life. It's one of the things that are very sad, that a lot of people, more than 4,000, 5,000 people, have to live with this memory actually engraved on their bodies. And while sometimes we will people who were more away from the blast will recover faster, these people will literally wake up every day looking into the mirror and remembering this specific trauma. And it's a daily trigger of these memories, so they have daily struggle until they reach the stage of acceptance and hope.
Yeah, how do you think they would accept that they have a scar? Do you think that they're gonna accept it and live with it, just to remember what the recklessness of the people who were responsible of this blast, or the people who attacked Beirut recklessly too? So, or just like they would remember the scar and they would move on to carry with hope and to live the life, and they accept that what they have.
It's not that simple. They have to go through everything so they reach at the end the acceptance. Like when they reach the stage of anger, they have to feel and let themselves feel the anger, no matter how much time it takes. Because while we all know theoretically everyone has to go through the 7 steps, how much time every individual spends in each phase is purely and solely individual experience. So when they get to the stage of anger and rage, they have to be allowed to feel it. You cannot force a person to just snap out of it, like خلاص, just be well already. It's not how it works. They have to go through all the stages one by one, and then naturally they will get to the place where they are peaceful inside with what happened, and they accept and they're fine with it. But they cannot go there without passing through the stages correctly.
You think they're going to have hopes after they accept what have happened to them?
Yes. Again, maybe we keep on mentioning the stages and we didn't define them. The first step is the shock, and then we go into denial, and then we go to see it.
Do you have some motivational tips you would give to all the Lebanese people, because all the Lebanese people have been affected by this explosion?
My advice would be is to just again allow themselves to feel what they're feeling, whatever it is. I would tell them helping the community is a good source of emotional expression, and at the same time it reflects back with feeling good. And I would also tell parents not to dismiss their children. Everyone is impacted, even though if they cannot express it, they have felt it, and in case they did not handle it correctly, it will affect them throughout their life on the long-term effects.
Caroline Kazanjian, social psychologist and psychotherapist, thank you so much for your time, and I hope that we can recover soon from the hurt that has been caused by unknown.
Yes.
Thank you so much, and I hope that the whole world will be filled with peace and love.